Hey, what's going on, everybody? My name is Mundane Matt, and welcome back to the first episode of $3 Theater for 2017. I know. This series has kind of had its ups, it's had its downs, but I've been really trying to focus it and make it a priority for this year. Thankfully, a lot of the crazier things that were preventing me from doing this series have now ended. That was mostly construction. Was a big part of it. There was a lot of construction right outside my door. For a while there, it was all day and all night, and I had a very short window of time to do my usual content. So the longer episodes, I just didn't have the time or the bandwidth to do. So that's just what happened with that. But I feel like for a lot of my movie going audience, you guys have been kind of hounding me about this, and so I don't want to let you down because I feel like I did. So I decided to kind of revamp everything. Instead of covering 5 or 6 stories or whatever, this is just going to be 2 or 3, very kind of quick and to the point, and we're going to go from there. So this is going to be $3 Theater style for going forward, and I think it's good. I think it's going to work out and everything else. One little thing I want to share with you guys before we get into this here is I am addicted to buying Blu-rays. I buy them all the time, whether I need them or not. And one of the things I love to do is I love to go and kind of dig for obscure movies or movies I don't have. And 7-Elevens are a great place for that. It's so weird because I just went out a little bit ago and I picked up Knowing for $3, the 1982 Tron Classic for $3. And I do believe this is a 2002 or 2003 rollerball from John McTiernan. There was no case to it, and I'm pretty sure it's that one, not the old rollerball from the 1980s. Again, I just like to buy those random Blu-rays, so there's going to pop up here going forward, because I might do the Wheelman series, which is a series I do on my vlog channel, which will be linked at the end of this thing, where I go to different stores and I have either my phone or my camera glasses or my mobile gimbal, and I just record walking around the store and picking up items and then giving my commentary. I might do that for this, because hitting up different 7-Elevens and seeing what I can find, what kind of cool little movies I can find and stuff, that could be a little bit of fun. So we'll talk about that going forward, but I don't want to over inundate myself with shit, but I do definitely want to get on to the subject of movies. So without further ado, let's kick this motherfucker off. All right, first things first, we are going to talk about some Star Wars stuff. So Rogue One has been out for a couple of weeks. It's been dominating the box office. This last weekend, New Year's weekend, it was again #1. The movie has done exceptionally well, and it's grossed $790 million worldwide. If this movie doesn't crack $1 billion, I will be surprised. Will it hit the $2 billion that Force Awakens made? Absolutely not, but it will probably cross $1 billion, which in and of itself is an amazing feat. Which then begs the question, when is the Han Solo standalone movie going to come? Now, we know in December 2017, so just like 12 months from now, goddammit, we're finally going to see what happens with everything after episode 7, right? With episode 8. So we know that's coming. But then we also know that they're going to be doing the Han Solo standalone movie, which is going to take place during his younger years. Now, I had thought that they were going to give us a cameo of some kind in Rogue One, because they are set around the same time, but it wasn't... that didn't happen, unfortunately. But we do know that they are shooting the Han Solo movie and everything else. And I do believe, and this is going to be a little side thing, I do believe that Donald Glover, when he won for Atlanta at the Critics' Choice Award, was in fact in the Lando Calrissian look. In fact, take a look at this and tell me what you guys think in the comments. That's like, come on, tell me that ain't Billy D. That is so goddamn Billy D. Right, so that's what I think. I think that's that. But anyway, so this Han Solo movie starring Alden Ehrenreich. Again, if I'm mispronouncing that, that's a name I'm going to have to learn. And Donald Glover and Emilia Clarke, Khaleesi herself from Game of Thrones is going to be in this movie. Comes out right now. It's being listed as a May 25th, 2018 release, which is Memorial Day weekend, i.e. the biggest movie-going weekend of the year. I always hated working Memorial Day at my theaters because it was always so fucking crazy, but it's the biggest one of the year. And now the rumor is that they're going to be pushing it back 6 months or 7 months really to July or to December to kind of make that the in between the episodes, just like they did with Rogue One. And that actually makes sense if you think about it. They did that with episode 8. Episode 8 was originally planned to come out in Memorial Day weekend this year, and then they were going to keep it going on Memorial Day weekend after that, right? But they decided to push episode 8 back to wintertime. And truth be told, it's probably for the best that they continue going down this path with these movies. Having yearly Star Wars releases in the summer sounds like a good idea, but if you look at the summer box office returns from this past year, they weren't very good. And I know that Star Wars is going to earn billions and billions and billions of dollars regardless of what time of year it's released. It doesn't matter. It could drop on a random Tuesday in September and still make like $2 billion, right? It's going to happen at Star Wars. But I think that's setting a good precedent for the franchise moving forward, because it's entering into a territory that it can literally control, right? You know, you figure you've got like the November movies tend to do pretty well. Warner Brothers likes to release Harry Potter movies in November, although they did mix it up a little bit with some of the Harry Potter movies dropping in summer, which actually had almost no impact on the box office returns at all, showcasing that you could release Harry Potter anytime and still make roughly the same amount of money. And then they also like to have like Disney as an animated movie in November. There's like maybe one or two other ones. I think the Hunger Games were pushed to the November releases outside of the first Hunger Games movie, which was released in March of 2012. So, you know, November tends to do pretty well, but December is always kind of like the award season. And so you always get a lot of big movies in December that are meant to be for more like critics and things like that, with the exception of a couple like Avatar did really well, so on and so forth. But Star Wars, it could lock it in. It could lock it in for that month and then just basically take all the fucking money, which is kind of what Rogue One is doing. You know, Sing came out and that's done pretty well too, and it's a cute movie. I recommend it. But it's not making the kind of money that Star Wars is. And this is a movie that they were anticipating it not to earn as much as Episode 7, but it's on its way to doing well over half the business that Episode 7 did. And that's good for the franchise. So moving forward with Star Wars, I think that the Han Solo movie should come out in December. And then keep it going forward from there. You know, if they're going to do Episode 8 and Episode 9, and everything, and then who knows if they're going to do 10, 11, 12 somewhat, you know, past that or not. We don't know what their plans are yet. But they could, you know, release, like have a saga built, right? Start another saga, and then just kind of like, you know, like hopscotch each other, right? So you have like a new trilogy starting, and then another trilogy, and then, you know, and then it keeps going from there. And that gives them like 6 years worth of fucking movies and literally billions of dollars. So it's an interesting concept that we'll have to wait to see what happens with that. But I'm excited for it, and I really hope that they go with that. Just because I think, to me, it makes Christmas more lively. It makes me excited for December more so than anything else. All right, so moving over into the DCEU territory with The Batman. Just recently, it was announced that they were going to start shooting The Batman in March of this year with an aimed release for 2018. I think they're going to be releasing that November 2018 in between Justice League Part 1 and Justice League Part 2, which is fine, totally fine with me. And Affleck seemed optimistic about it. He seemed really ready to go. We know that Deathstroke is going to be the villain. We know that we've seen what he looks like. It looks pretty great and everything else. And I have a feeling that an Affleck directed Batman movie is going to be like possibly like an Oscar contender, where, you know, like it might actually get further than The Dark Knight did. And that's saying something, because that movie is a fucking masterpiece. But that being said, it might not be as kind of hunky-dory as we were led to believe a few weeks ago. In an interview with The Guardian, while talking about his new film Live by Night, Affleck said that it's not a set thing and there's no script. If it doesn't come together in a way that I think is really great, I'm not going to do it. And this is definitely a departure from what he was saying just a couple weeks ago with everything ready to go for a production in just a couple, just a couple months and shit, right? Like Suicide Squad was written in like 6 weeks, and it needed more time to be fleshed out in order to give us more of a cohesive plot. Don't get me wrong, I love Suicide Squad. I think it's a fun ass fucking movie. I actually saw it twice in the theater, and I own the damn thing on Blu-ray. But it's like it's definitely a movie that needed more time to be fleshed out, right? And I was hoping the extended cut would flesh it out even more. It didn't actually. It gave us some odds and ends to some scenes, but nothing that significantly moved the plot forward like it did with Batman v Superman. And so I'm a little bit concerned when he says there's no script yet. If you're going to start production of the movie in 2 months, what the fuck is you doing, right? And then he also says here, I'm not going to write and direct anything that I don't think is good enough to be made. I'm definitely going to make sure I have something that is special. There's not enough money in the world to make a mediocre version of Batman worth it. And that is very true. And he actually said that to Entertainment Weekly a couple weeks ago. So that's kind of coming on the heels of that, this particular comment. So I'm a little bit concerned, but then again, look, here's maybe what this whole situation is boiling down to, is Affleck right now is getting ready to release his fourth directorial debut, or his fourth film that he directed, right? First you had Gone Baby Gone, then you had The Town, then you had Argo, now you have Live by Night. The Town and Argo are fantastic. Argo winning Best Picture a couple years ago. One of the reasons why Warner Brothers is very much in the business of making Ben Affleck movies. And now you've got this one, which is, according to some, good, but hasn't really made that splash yet. And I think he's just kind of in that director mode. I think he's just in that director mode right now, where he is like looking at everything he wants to do very critically, and he's very like he very much wants to make sure that it's perfected. So he's in that particular mindset, and maybe that's what's causing some doubt with the Batman movie. Like, he wants to give it his all, and maybe there's some stuff that's not necessarily the most fleshed out at this moment in time, but they're working on it, because it does seem like they're working on it. It does seem like they're very much trying to make this a big thing, because if they fuck up Batman, I mean, if they go like Batman and Robin fucking fuck up, then it's going to be bad. If they go Joel Schumacher fucking bat nipples and everything, it's going to be bad. I don't think he's going to go that far. I don't think he's going to cast Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl and make it Alfred's fucking niece, right? I don't think that's going to happen. But I understand his point. Coming off of the response of Batman v Superman theatrical in terms of story, coming off the response of Suicide Squad in terms of story or lack thereof, I can see why he wants to make sure that the Batman is just exceptionally ready to go. Like, it's top notch, running at full cylinders across the board. And it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And that's one thing that I really want to see happen. I really want to see him nail this thing out of the fucking park. I would love it, man. I would fucking love it if all of a sudden they announced like, oh, there's going to be, the Best Picture nominations are The Batman, directed by Ben Affleck. And it's like, a Batman movie is up for Best Picture. And what if it won? I mean, that's not out of the realm of any kind of possibility. That could actually happen. Just imagine like how that would legitimize the DCEU, and that would make Marvel like straight up their fucking game. Because look, even though Marvel clearly has it nominated in terms of like the money, they want that award. Everyone in Hollywood wants that award, right? The Oscars, while purely celebratory and glad-handing amongst the industry, you still fucking want it, because it does give you that career prestige. And if Kevin Feige was able to get the Best Picture award, which generally at that point goes to the producers, then that would be something he'd be able to basically stick in Ike Perlmutter's face and be like, "Fuck you, this shit's mine, motherfucker." And so that would really up the ante for all superhero movies, because then they would very much focus on what made the Batman a success. It's kind of like Deadpool, right? Deadpool came on out, $50 million budget, rated R, superhero comedy, whatever, did gangbusters, over $800 million worldwide. And now Fox is like, let's make the next Wolverine movie rated R. And they're now approaching those kind of R-rated movies with these characters that they would have been too afraid to do a decade ago, five years ago. They would have been so afraid to do it. But now, because of the success of like Kingsman and Deadpool and everything else, that they're willing to explore that. And that's what would happen if something like The Batman won Best Picture, which I'm actually really pulling for it. I'm really pulling for it. My expectations for this movie are fucking high, like higher than probably anything else, even including Star Wars Episode 8. All right, so quickly jumping over into the MCU news, because this is pretty cool. You have got a story coming out of the Wrap that Doctor Strange, Benedict Cumberbatch, will be in Thor Ragnarok. Now, after the stinger scene from Doctor Strange, where we see him meeting up with Thor and discussing Odin's disappearance, okay, and he says, "Oh, if I help you find your father, will you kindly fuck off?" We can assume that Doctor Strange will at least be playing some part in Thor Ragnarok. But to what capacity? We don't know what capacity is. What the Wrap is reporting is that according to Disney's official fan club, D23, they posted a preview saying that Thor will team up with familiar faces. Now we know that the Hulk is in it, so we know Mark Ruffalo's in it. We know they're going to be doing a little bit on Planet Hulk and everything else, and we know that Tom Hiddleston's going to be back as Loki, and a whole bunch of other cast is going to be involved. But my question though is how much of Doctor Strange is going to be in this movie. And I'm wondering if it's going to be very similar to what we saw of Ant-Man in Civil War. There's also the issue of the timeline of where Doctor Strange fits in everything, as well as when Thor Ragnarok fits into everything, and everything else. So here's why I bring that up. So according to Kevin Feige, for the longest time, the MCU is one timeline. It was one timeline of events, right? Starting in 2008 and going to current times. But Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 doesn't take place in 2017, right, following that timeline of 3 years past the events of the first film. It actually takes place 2 months after they defeat, all the bad guys in the first Guardians. For some reason, I forgot Lee Pace's enemy name right now. But it takes place 2 months later, which is why Baby Groot is a thing. Okay, and he's not full grown. So you've got that whole situation, right? Well, you've also got C. Robert Cargill, who was a writer on Doctor Strange, saying that Doctor Strange takes place in 2016, but the beginning part of Doctor Strange takes place in the beginning of 2016, then the accident happens, and then it goes maybe towards the end. But we don't really have a definitive timetable of events on that one. So it's very confusing, and they actually haven't given us a straight answer. And I'm wondering if they're doing that in order to kind of play with the timeline, given the fact that time travel is a thing in Doctor Strange. So I'm wondering where it takes place. Does the first part of Doctor Strange take place before Civil War, and then the end of Doctor Strange takes place afterward? Because we do know that the Avengers are known, so clearly it's after 2012, but I'm also wondering, does it take place before Age of Ultron, right? Because there wasn't anything mentioned in there about the Slovakia Accords, or whatever, Sylvania Accords, or whatever the hell it was from Civil War. So we don't know necessarily to what extent the Avengers are known in Doctor Strange's world. Now, in the beginning of Doctor Strange, right before the car accident, there is a mention of a person who was crushed in a metal power armor. That led me to believe that that was actually Rhodey being injured, a spinal injury that happened in Civil War, so that Doctor Strange would take place after Civil War, but apparently that's not true. Like I said, they haven't given us a definitive answer on everything that's going on. So it's kind of crazy. So with Benedict Cumberbatch coming into Thor 3 can only lead me to believe that what they're attempting to do is treat it similar to Ant-Man and the whole airport sequence. Bring him in for a battle, give him a nice kick-ass character moment, and set him up for success in the next two Avengers films, because that's what I think they're trying to do. They realize that Doctor Strange is going to have a key part in the upcoming Phase 4 of the MCU. They know it's going to be a big thing. They're having an ever-expanding roster, but they want to make sure that they can capitalize on this right now. And so they're going to bring in Doctor Strange, give him that moment of triumph, let the audiences get reacquainted to him once again, and then also maybe bring in new Doctor Strange fans to Thor. Maybe they're not a fan, who knows, and then go from there. That's what I take from that. And it's a smart business play, to be honest with you. It's a really smart business move on Marvel's part to keep these characters coming in and out of each other's films, simply because that's what's going to put a lot of butts in seats. People want to see the team ups. I mean, look at the Spider-Man trailer. You've got, Tony Stark a couple times in the trailer, and that last shot in the end of Spider-Man and Iron Man going through New York, and it's like fucking nerdgasm and shit. So yeah, putting Doctor Strange in Thor Ragnarok as a larger character than just a cameo is definitely going to do well for the character's popularity within the MCU. All right, guys. So I came across this story as I was wrapping up this episode, and I wanted to include it at the tail end here. As you all know, Carrie Fisher passed away last week. We lost our Princess Leia that I'm still really mad about that and really upset. And I was really wondering kind of the future of her character. People have done lots of speculatory videos and articles about it. But what I find to be interesting is that the Insurance Insider is reporting that Disney is actually going to get a $50 million insurance payout on Carrie Fisher's death because they took out a claim against her. It says here, sources said that Disney had taken out $50 million of so-called contract protection cover as insurance for the event that Fisher was unable to fulfill her obligations to act in the new Star Wars films. Now, a lot of people, not a lot of people, but one person in particular had made the claim that Carrie Fisher was taken out because she had outlived her usefulness to Disney, right? And it's a tinfoil hat theory, and one that's ultimately extremely disrespectful. She had a very alcohol-infused and drug-infused life, and that definitely plays a lot of fucking strain, a lot of part in what happened, put a lot of strain on her ticker, okay? But Disney taking out that kind of protection on her is actually not as nefarious as some people out there might be trying to think that it is. It makes sense. So during production of episode 7, remember how Harrison Ford broke his leg? All right. Well, the story I heard from a prominent movie blogger, who I'm not going to name his name, but I met him at Comic-Con. He's a good guy. He was telling me that what happened was Harrison Ford was almost decapitated on the set of the Millennium Falcon while J.J. Abrams and him were touring it because the guy who was supposedly like testing the pneumatic doors, they didn't know he was going to run the test, and he didn't know they were there. And it was an accident that had J.J. Abrams not acted as quickly as he did, we would have lost Harrison Ford. Instead of him getting, he only broke his leg. And that would definitely, freak out Disney because they wanted to make sure that he would stick around, and probably the same thing with Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, and maybe even Billy D, depending on what's going on, and probably also Anthony Daniels, and maybe even Kenny Baker. Maybe not so much Kenny Baker, but definitely like the core trilogy, right? So that's kind of, or the core trinity. I think that's why this happened, is they saw that and they realized that they need to protect their assets here, and that's just what happened. And it's unfortunate that it came to this. I guarantee you, it took everyone by surprise, and like no one there tried to kill Princess Leia, right? Like no. Disney wasn't trying to take her out. They wanted to use her and everything. All of her scenes for episode 8 had been shot, and I'm pretty certain she was going to be around for episode 9. Well, she not anymore, but you guys know what I mean. So it's sad when you start hearing these details after somebody passes away, and you come to realize what the value of someone's life is worth to a gigantic conglomerate, right? Like a gigantic fucking company. And I'm not mad at Disney. I get it. They're trying to protect their assets and whatnot, but it's still, at this point, if they pull the trigger and take that money, it would be the biggest ever single personal accident insurance claim. So it would go down in history as the biggest insurance claim ever taken or ever claimed for a person's death. And yeah, I mean, look, $50 million is a lot of money. In no way in hell would it ever possibly bring back Carrie Fisher. And if they did take that money, I would love it if they were like, we're going to donate this to rehab programs or to mental illness programs, or they're going to give it to a worthy charity or spread it amongst a bunch of worthy charities in her honor. And I think that would be the right course of action. But then again, to Disney and Marvel and Lucasfilm and every other company out there, the bottom line is all money. And, if not a lot of people are talking about this, then they could just kind of take it and walk away with it, and no one would be any wiser. But I'd love to see them give that money back to research to help save lives, to help get people with mental illness help get people who have had addiction issues help, and things like that. And I think that would be the best way to honor her memory, would be to take that money and to be altruistic with it. All right, guys, that wraps up this episode of 3 Buck Theater. My name is Mundane Matt. Hope you guys liked it. Please leave your comments below. I really look forward to doing more of these. As always, you guys know me. I love to talk movies. So when I say this thing is going to be quick, clearly these stories weren't. There's always a lot of ancillary information, and I like to provide it because I want to make sure you guys are informed for when you're having those movie trivia debates with your friends and you're like, hold on, I can smoke some bastards because I listen to Mundane Matt, and clearly he knows his shit. Anyway, guys, I'll talk to you later. Have yourself a great day, and may the force be with you. Alright everyone, that wraps up this video. My name is Mundane Matt. Be sure to give it a thumbs up, comment below, subscribe if you're new, check back daily for more content from me, or if you want to know about my life, check out Mundane Chats, or top 5 videos that are awesome as fuck, forbidden knowledge right here. Talk to you guys later, have yourself a good day, and peace out.